can document the past in a beautiful way. While researching for my school project, I discovered an amazing woman artist called Henrietta Johnston, who was the first pastel portrait artist in America during 1674 to 1729. Henrietta Johnston was a French Huguenot who escaped to Ireland and married Reverend Gideon Johnston in Dublin. She arrived with her family in the colony of South Carolina in America in 1708. In Charleston, many French Huguenots who were seeking religious freedom were asking for their portraits to be painted. Pastels were a new method in Ireland at that time. Therefore, Henrietta Johnston became a pastel portrait artist so that she could earn money, as her husband, the Reverend, had very little income and could not support his family. Soon he died, and she had to fend for her family. She would paint portraits of important men, women, and their children. Today, I will mainly discuss the portraits of John Moore, a colonel, and his family who lived in New York, because these paintings show how children lived, dressed, and looked like in New York in the colonial times. This is a portrait of the daughter of the colonel, Frances Lambert Moore, by Henrietta Johnston. I went to Metropolitan Museum and researched online to investigate. I learned that the little girl's father, Colonel John Moore, was buried in Trinity Church, Wall Street, in New York. I searched for his grave at Wall Street and found it. This is what I learned. Here we are standing in Trinity Church in Wall Street, where John Moore was buried in 1749. John Moore and the rest of his family members were buried here. But John Moore was the first one to be buried here, and he's the first grave here at Trinity Church. It shows that John Moore was a very important man in colonial times in New York, and no doubt that Henrietta Johnston was asked to paint his portrait. I wanted to learn about how John Moore's little girl lived, so I visited the Van Cortlandt family's house in New York. I assumed that since both the Van Cortlandt and the Moore family were from the same time, they probably had a similar lifestyle.
You were a child living in this house. First off, where we are right now in the parlor, you probably saw a very little time down here. There's a room on the third floor called a nursery. There's 4 to 5 children in the family. They're all sharing one room. They're all sharing one bed. And if there's any extra beds to be pulled out underneath, like a trundle bed, the smaller children would be sleeping in that bed. These are called stays. And you wore stays because they gave you upper body strength. Put your pockets on. Pockets are not sewn into women's garments. They're worn underneath their clothes. So you can say pockets are part of your undergarments. So I'm going to put this on you. Because this outfit actually was made for a girl that was about 7, 8 years old. Sew this up. From here to there, that's about 6 inches. You could do that in about 15, 20 seconds.
There were many artists in Henrietta Johnston's time, but none of them did pastel portraits, nor were they women. When I researched at the Metropolitan Museum, I saw some paintings by male artists. They were paintings of little children. They were done in oil on canvas. In my eyes, Henrietta's portraits were softer and the children looked livelier. I wondered how Henrietta Johnston looked like. However, there is no record of her. It is sad that the artist who made colonial characters come alive through her paintings did not have a self-portrait. Therefore, I painted her myself with pastels. In my painting, I showed her wearing a head bonnet and a cross around her neck, like French Huguenot ladies did. What made me admire this woman was that she was different from most women in colonial America. In those days, women usually did jobs such as housekeeping, managing a plantation, or taking care of children. However, Henrietta was one of the first artists of her time. French Huguenot women were fiercely independent and believed in doing the same jobs as men. That is why my portrait of Henrietta shows a determined lady, although with a sad and hard life. This documentary is my tribute to an inspiring woman artist from colonial America. Thank you.